Robert, do you believe in God? Are you
Yeah.
spiritual?
Very. I always felt that there was a connection with God. I had my first God experience when I was about 8 years old. Never told the story in public before.
Okay.
So it's my first time. Okay. For me, I felt like life was happening to me and I wasn't making life happen. There was an intention behind it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of escapism. There was a lot of denial. And it's when I called my parents up and I said, come, I need you guys here.
As women, we have such a powerful network among each other.
Yeah.
And what that does is also create a net that catches you. Do men have that net?
No, we don't. As tough as it is for women out there in the world, in a man's world today, I can assure you, it is as tough, if not tougher, for a man in a man's world. It didn't matter how much money I was making. I was the second highest earning IPL player at that point in time. And I wanted nothing to do with cricket because I just become ashamed of who I'd become as an athlete.
You are a World Cup champion. And then you were playing IPL. And at that point, you were depressed. What happened?
A bunch of things, honestly.
The difference of playing a sport professionally is that playing careers are shorter.
Yeah.
The kind of money you'd make if you're at the top of your game is massive for a very young person. And so how important is it to know what to do with that money?
My first IPL gig was for 3.2 crores. We were talking about crores in 2007 and you're earning that for your family. You're earning what your father, your grandfather and your uncles all put together have not earned.
Robert Uthappa, sports person, serial champion. That's what I've decided to call it. Just because, just a list is just amazing. But the fun part about when I was talking to other people about you is that there's a general review that you're an all-round good guy. You're like the solid good guy. Mental health advocate now, life coach, and you've got so much going on. So I've been so excited to have this conversation with you. Yes, about the success, but about all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
Because you've talked enough about the cricket. And it's brilliant. And I congratulate you for your achievements. But I really want to talk to you about all of the other things that you've spent your time and energy on in the last couple of years. And I think that's amazing. And like this is the anti-podcast. So while everybody else talks about how you can meditate and you can do these 4 things and become very successful, we talk about failure. Because I think that we learn more from failures than we do from success. And my first question normally to my guests, especially the ridiculously successful ones, are, do you remember a moment of failure?
Oh, all the time.
Tell me what you remember.
So much. In fact, some of my fondest memories are of my biggest failures because that's where I've learned the most. I've grown the most. And today I kind of operate in a way where if I'm going through a challenging phase or if I'm in a sense out of my comfort zone, I get excited about it.
Okay.
I get excited about it because I know I'm going to encounter growth.
Okay, let's roll this back a little bit, right? When you say you went through a bad experience or a tough experience that really expanded who you are, give me an example.
I'd say one of my first challenges I faced was in hindsight, might have been a challenge, but today in hindsight, it feels like I had such a great attitude about it. I was about 8 years old when I first went for my under 13 state selections, and my school hadn't sent me because I hadn't played for school yet. And so I went independently. Because I went independently, I got cut in the first round. And maybe I wasn't good enough at that point in time. I got cut in the first round. And, my parents were kind of sad about it. And, my mom was trying to commiserate with me and she's like trying to say, it's okay, don't worry. I was like, Mom, it's fine. I'm really like, I got a taste of, what this is going to be like. And I said to her that is like, this is what I want to do. Even if I earn 10 rupees from this now, this is what I want to do. It became very clear to me that cricket is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And in that moment of sadness, I was able to, because I had an attitude of positivity or an attitude that was like, hey, what can I learn from this? I got a taste of what this is like, so I know what I'm up against the next time. So for me, and then the next year I went for selections. I got selected to the state side and then played for state till I was like 15 years old. And then at 15, I got dropped from the state side. So you get used to playing for the state side for as a regular member, and then you perform well. And then that year, I performed really well. And because of some form of bureaucracy or some politics at that level, they had cut me from the state side from the first 3 or 4 games. And I was devastated. It's the first time in my life I was like, I'm experienced kind of failure on that level, because I was supposed to be a prodigy growing up. I was always slightly ahead of the curve. By 16, I'd played Ranji Trophy cricket. So this was at 15, I was playing under 19 cricket, and I hadn't got selected in the state side. And I was not just in the under 19 side, I didn't get selected in the under 16 side. So for me, it was like an anomaly. So I was like, how can this happen to me? I remember I bunked school and I went and parked my Kinetic Honda in Cubbon Park, and I sat on the bench the whole day, and I just slept there. I was just kind of mourning my situation at a point in time. And I was like, what can I do? Because this is beyond me. And if I hadn't performed, it was okay. But I actually did perform, and I still didn't make it. I didn't make the cut. That was my first experience of failure.
And how did you navigate that?
It was tough. You just took it one day at a time, and I had to deal with the heaviness that was in my heart every day. And then I had to have like some form of belief. And I think if you play sport in life, you get resilient. It teaches you resilience, because you experience success and failure on a day-to-day basis when you're playing matches.
Yeah.
You can practice for like hours on end the previous day, and the next day you can get out first ball and you're back in the hut for the rest of the day, just vegetating till your mates finish batting. Then you have to go field, and if you're lucky enough, a few balls come to you, you can create an impact. If you're not lucky enough, you don't have the right attitude, the ball doesn't come to you, or the ball just chases you the whole day and you're not fielding well. If you have a bad attitude. So there's so much to learn from that on a day-to-day basis, that on some level you realize that, okay, good days and bad days will happen. Good things and bad things will happen. It's a part and parcel of it. It's just about believing that something better is coming up, and then
But when there's bureaucracy and politics, and what has happened on a good day or a bad day is not necessarily a result of either your hard work or your resilience or your performance. How do you deal with that?
It took a long time for me to realize this, but the minute I realized it, I was like, it just freed me up. I realized that if I try to control things that are beyond my control, I'm only going to make myself miserable. And I don't want to be miserable, because that is not the highest version of me or the best version of me. I want to be happy, doing what I do, doing what I love. I think I was very lucky at a young age to have an experience that made me realize what my purpose in life was. To discover that cricket is my passion and I want to pursue that. I knew that when I was 8 years old, and my mom was like, okay, and here's an 8-year-old kid telling me that this is what he wants to do for a living, even if he earns 10 rupees, because there was no money in cricket at that point in time. And in the early 90s, how much money was there in cricket? Only if you played at the international level was there money in it. Otherwise, there wasn't much money in it. I remember when I was 16 years old, when I played my first Ranji Trophy match, we got 16,000 rupees in 2003. That was what we earned. So if you multiply that into 5 matches, and then if you qualify to the knockouts, you multiply another 3 matches, that's what you earned in a year. And that's why people need a bank job, or a corporate job,
or a railways job,
or a railways job to make ends meet, so to speak.
At what point did you know, okay, I'm really good at this, I'm better than most, or I could be the best?
Because it's perhaps about 10, 11. At maybe 12 even. That's when I kind of knew that, okay, I'm really good at what I'm doing. I really enjoy it. And it was an avenue for me to really express myself, where I could just wholly, completely, freely just be myself. And I played cricket very different to a lot of almost all of my contemporaries. There were very few people who played the way I played. So back when I was growing up, cricket was played very differently. It's not played how it's played today. Today is played ultra aggressively. Back then it was more technically correct, the gentleman's game. You play along the ground, play defensive. You're respectful to the opposition even. You don't have the kind of disdain that we have today. But for me, back then, I had none of that. I was just disdainful to everyone. And much to the angst of my coaches, I played very aggressively, and as a batter, became very intimidating. And then after a certain point, had a personality to match as well. And then became very aggressive.
Which early success will do to?
I think my aggression was to win. I was like, for me, I thought I was misunderstood because I came across very aggressively. I really wanted to win everything I played. So that intent to win, I'd really push everyone and maybe regular 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds weren't used to that level of hunger for success, and that probably also made me slightly different. And so every time I failed, so I would the only way I would kind of figure things out is by being aggressive and dominating the attack that I was playing against.
When you started playing international cricket for India, obviously that was a really big moment for you. But it's also, I mean, it's so high octane, right? There's money, there's fame. You're in the same room with all of these greats. What was that like?
I was 20 when I played for India.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I played with all of my heroes. I played with everyone that I visualized I would play with. Like, I literally visualized batting with them when I was playing the hanging ball. We have something called the hanging ball that we used to practice. And then so I would visualize batting with them. I ended up playing with all of my heroes that I grew up watching cricket. I have Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, Saurav Ganguly, Virender Sehwag, VVS Lakshman. These are the people that I loved and adored growing up. So I ended up playing with them. So for me, it was a massive kind of surreal moment when I actually got into the side. I was I want to look at everybody. I want to learn everything that everyone is doing. And that was my attitude. I got an opportunity in my first game. I scored a lot of runs. And then the second game, I scored 12 or something. And the third game, I got at the end of another series in West Indies. And then I got out first ball. And my first game, I actually had scored the highest score by an Indian batsman on debut. So it was a national record. And 2 matches later, I got dropped from the Indian team. So for me, it was like, to get to the Indian team, I had to do something special. I had to make a comeback at 21. So I had to score 1,000 runs in domestic cricket again to get another comeback in 2007. So 2006 was first, and then 2007. So then again, there you met with failure, and then you got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what can I learn? How can I apply myself? Do I want to get there? How badly do I want to get there? Get things aligned and move forward in that direction in good faith.
I had this conversation with Shabana Azmi recently, and I asked her about, a lot of people now want to be actors, and she said, I would say, if you cannot live without this thing, if it's all you can bring yourself to do every day, then do it.
Yeah.
Is that what that was like for you as well?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't want to do anything but cricket. There was a point in time when things were beyond my control where I felt, okay, I'm going to quit the game. And I was like, okay, I don't want to play because this is just after 10th standard. And this is when that whole situation happened for me where I went to school a little early. So I was 15 when I was in 10th standard. So at that point is when I got dropped from the under 16 and under 19 say squad. And so I was like, no, I don't want to play cricket anymore because I don't want to deal with the bureaucracy. I don't want to feel like I'm not in control of my own destiny. And then a very sweet gentleman from Mumbai, Mr. Makran Vayangankar, who after that point became a mentor of mine for a few years. He spoke to me and I said, no, sir, I'm not coming. I don't want to play cricket anymore for Karnataka. And then one of the times he called up, he got in touch. He got hold of my mom and dad. And he spoke to my dad and said, tell him to come. He's got a future. And then, so my dad spoke to me. Dad said, you know what? Why don't you go back and give it another shot? So I said, why? He says, if not for everything you've done so far in your career, because you've progressed quite a bit, at least for the talent and the ability that God's blessed you with, just go and give it another shot.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. Dad's telling me this. And then when he said, if at least go back for the talent that God's blessed you with, I was like, yeah, I have to go back now. So I went back and then I joined the academy. And in that camp itself, which was like a 28-day camp, I lost about 13, 14 kilos. I just went on one mad diet that I made for myself. I thought I'd lose weight. And then I lost a lot of weight. I grew taller. And then suddenly opportunities came along. And then Maxo would guide me a little bit, taught me a lot of wonderful things that I still hold true today as a player when I play around the world. And
tell me some of those things.
My visualization is a big part of it. My conscious breathing, or people call it meditation. So for me, it's about just being conscious about my breath and staying in the present. The exercises of just staying in the present. Those are things that my pre-match routines that I will hold dear to and hold fast to till the day I stop playing cricket. And in fact, a lot of those things are also things that I exercise when I'm not playing cricket, when I'm playing perhaps another sport or doing my work that I do today.
I think it's fascinating also, especially when we talk about sport, but other forms of career in life. There's such a lot of pressure on such young minds and no focus on mental health and how to cope, right? Because imagine, I mean, you know it, but like as a 20-year-old, when you're getting picked, when you're getting dropped, when
Are you surprised, Faye?
No,
Surprised that
unfortunately not.
in our country or
Oh,
in the world we live in today, or in our country, let's just talk about our country. We don't have that today. It's human nature, isn't it?
yeah.
Because where there's volume, there's very little value.
Mm,
Where there's no volume, there's a lot of value. Much like precious stones, right?
yeah.
Like diamonds are valuable were valuable till the man-made diamonds came along, right? Now, because there's so much volume of it, the value of it is dropped. It's the same thing. It's just human nature, and I think that that shouldn't stop one's pursuit
Mm,
of doing what's right and bringing attention to what needs attention, because there are so many precursors to mental well-being and the lack of mental well-being. Um, Relationships, and I mean any form of relationships, could be romantic, platonic,
yeah.
parental, sibling. All of these are, if you're not paid attention to, if not valued, if you're not nurtured, all can become precursors to your mental health, and the worst thing of your mental finances, not planning finances, debts, just taking unnecessary debts, short term thinking. All of that can all be precursors to mental health issues when you don't think things through, when you don't go through life with awareness and self awareness.
Mm.
And I think those are aspects that we need to talk about, which is why today I speak about mental health so much, because for me, I think there's still a stigma attached to it in our country. I remember the first time I went to a counselor, I was categorically told, "You're not going to tell anybody about this."
By who?
My mother.
Mm.
Uh, it was her desire to protect me because of the stigma that was attached to society. And I was 22 when I first went to a counselor, 21 when I first went to a counselor. And I didn't even know I was going through depression for the first year and a half. And it got better. I got really lucky. I went to an incredible counselor, and she was. I love her to bits today because of who she is and the role she's played in my life and the amount she's empowered me. And I feel like I got lucky.
You are a World Cup champion,
Mm.
and then you were playing IPL, and at that point you were depressed. What happened?
A bunch of things, honestly. I Mom and dad had a tough marriage. So growing up in the middle of that, it got hard for me, and I had to earn affection, and
Mm,
wasn't necessarily given freely. And things are very volatile at home, and that volatility, growing up and you experience that, you think that's the norm.
yeah.
You think that's what life has. The volatility is what life is. I can tell you, in all honesty, I believe till the age of 15, I suppose that uh, some bad people were kidnapping my mom and dad away and putting these actors in front of us just to torture my sister and me for the longest time. And uh, so that volatility was always there. And then in 2008, in July 2008, after first IPL, everything was fine. Everything was great. And then things weren't great at home. Mom and dad, the marriage came to a precarious place. And then I said, okay, maybe I'll invest myself into helping them with their marriage for 6 months, because got dropped from the Indian team in July 2008. And then the Ranji Trophy was in November. So like, okay, I have that time from July to November. So I'll help them with their marriage for about 4 months, and then focus on making a comeback again. And that was the focus. And how that 4 months became 4 years, I have no idea, because it was just a spiral down.
Yeah.
I didn't find a way up, and things continued to get even more volatile and tenacious, and just got hard to go by. And then I think in 2009, when I was playing the IPL in South Africa, is when I realized that something was wrong, Faye. We were staying at the Santon Sun. I was playing for RCB at the time, and I'm scared of heights, but I found myself sitting on the windowsill of my hotel room on the 23rd floor with my legs dangling outside. And a thought crossed my mind at that point, and it went, I could end it off. The pain would all end if I just jumped. And I kind of shocked myself with that thought, and I came back in.
Mm.
And as dire as things were at home, I called mom and dad up and I said, I need you guys here, and I'm not okay. I need you guys to come here. So they flew to South Africa probably a week later, and they were there with me and they supported me. And mom saw that something was off. It was so things were bad anyway. But 2 weeks before that IPL, I got transferred from Mumbai Indians to RCB.
Yeah.
For me, I think that kind of pushed me over the line a little bit. And today, in hindsight, I felt like I didn't process that well. And maybe because that first year fit with RCB, even though we got to the finals and we lost by a few runs, I didn't feel at any point like I belong with RCB. My loyalties all lied with Mumbai Indians. And for me, because that was the first time we as Indians were playing professional cricket.
Yes.
Right? We didn't know what moving from club to club was. We didn't know what transfers were outside of what we heard about the EPL. We didn't know individually what players would experience. Because I found an absolute loyalty with Mumbai Indians. And I didn't want to leave the franchise. I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to leave, sir. Like whoever was speaking at that point, I said, don't want to leave. He said, if you don't leave, I cannot guarantee you will play any match at all for Mumbai. And that's when I like, okay, they don't want me at all. And that's when I left.
And that's a really hard.
Yeah. And that's when I left and I was like, okay, now what? You know, as in how, like, and I felt so inauthentic as a person while I was at RCB, just trying to, even though I was coming back home, Faye, I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like that was my team. It took me a year. And then after I came back from that IPL, and thank God for social media not being as, rampant as it is today. If it was, I promise you, I would have been taken to the cleaners. I probably gone south even more, because when we lost that finals, I was batting with Anil Kumble and we lost that finals by 5 runs if I'm not wrong. And for me, with everything that was going on, I was going through that as well. And then I came back and then I was like, okay, I need to fix this. And then, I started going to a counselor after that, and then went to the counselor, and then in 3 months, she made me feel so empowered, Faye.
Actually, the most, even for me, the activity or the action of saying there's something wrong, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to see someone, that alone gives you so much more control over your life suddenly. I feel like that puts you in the driving seat. It just makes you feel like a different person.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, you just feel like your life is not in your control anymore.
Yeah, I feel like, for me, I felt like life was happening to me. And I wasn't making life happen. There was an intention behind it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of escapism. There was a lot of denial. And it's when I called my parents up and I said, come, I need you guys here. Something's wrong and I don't know what it is. And then it's my mom and another aunt of mine who basically I absolutely adore. She passed on. She had cancer and a few years later she passed on. But she was the one who spoke to mom about sending me to a counselor. And then she put me onto the counselor, and then I went to her and things got better. And then 3 months later, I felt like I'm fine now. I don't need a counselor anymore. And I stopped going to her. And the next time I saw her was in 2012 when I saved myself from committing suicide. And so things got bad to worse. And I went through a bad breakup with a girlfriend that I was seeing 7 years. And then she got married 6 months after we broke up, 5 months after we broke up.
So that's hard.
And I was ready to marry her at that point in time. So she got married, and then that kind of took a massive hit on me. And then I kind of spiraled, and the spiral didn't stop. So I went all of 2011 was easily, possibly the toughest year of my life. And it didn't matter how much money I was making. I was the second highest earning IPL player at that point in time. And I wanted nothing to do with cricket because I just become ashamed of who I'd become as an athlete. I'm someone who's an absolute team man. I love playing for my mates. I love achieving things for them, and I want to do it as a group. And I think one of the reasons I love cricket is because you get 15, 20 people to come together from different walks of life to achieve a common goal. I think there's something really deeply magical about it. And that's what's great about team sport. You bring people from different walks of life, different life experiences, different childhoods, and then you get them to align together. And that stuff is stuff of dreams. That's magical stuff. And when that gets right, Faye, there are very few things in life that feel as good as that. To feel aligned to 20 people, to feel like everyone's energy kind of working in tandem, one behind the other. Everyone's playing for each other. We're genuinely happy for each other's success. And I've been in a few teams such as that in my career. I'm extremely grateful for it. And I truly think it's magical. I think it's divine. And for me, in that phase, between 10, 11, I became an individual who was not happy for my teammates' success. I became an individual who started seeing progress in the failures of my teammates. I went all of 2011 not looking myself in the mirror because of how ashamed I'd become of myself. I would get in and get out of the dressing room as quickly as possible. Zero eye contact. I remember I became so ashamed of myself. As in, I loved cricket. But I hated who I'd become within the game. And so I was always angry with myself. And in turn became angry with everyone else around me. So I became very volatile. So I became what I grew up in.
Yes.
And I became very volatile.
So your stress response was what you had grown up watching.
Yeah, and became very, very moody. And a lot of people were scared to even talk to me because I was also a senior in the state team by then. Also captained the team for a couple of years. So I was also senior member. So it just made me feel so inauthentic that I was like, can't live like this. And that's when Sheets and I were best friends. She was playing competitive.
Is your wife?
Yeah, my wife. And she was playing competitive sport as well at that point in time. She was ranked 3 in India in tennis, women's. And so I spoke to her, and she's the only person I spoke to. I said, Sheets, I'm done, man. She's like, what do you mean? So I said, I'm done. I said, I have 2 ways of going about this. One is because things at home also hadn't gotten better. So there was no respite anywhere.
Yeah.
So one is I either kill myself. 2 is I give up cricket, go to some other part of the world and restart life. These are the only 2 options I saw. And this is after trying to commit suicide a few times. So, and then she's like, okay. The first question she asked me was like, so what about cricket? I said, I'm done now. But you're earning so much money. I said, it does not make a difference. It's not like it's not adding value. It's not, if anything, it's only making things more complicated because you're not navigating through the right way. And at this point, I don't know what the right way is. I said, and so I'm done. And then she was like, okay, let's take this one step at a time. She's like, do you love the game? I said, I adore the game. She said, then what's the problem? I just said, I hate who I've become. And she literally counseled me through that situation. And we got to a place where she said, can you play the game for the next 6 months for me? I said, why? She like, okay, because you're committed to your team, so you'll play one more IPL. And the other reason is I want you to play the game only because you love it. Not to score runs, not to win matches, not to make money, not to get back into the Indian team, just because you love the game. Can you do that? I said, yeah. She's like, can you do that for me? I said, yeah. 6 months? Okay, I'll play it. I said, let me be a little bit more money in the bank when I move to wherever, whichever part of the world. Because I didn't want to commit suicide, but I just felt so hopeless in life that I was like, let's just end it. Because it was just like too much for me, and I wasn't dealing with it. So then I started living an intentional life from that point in, and I played cricket just for the love of the game. I just went there and became a child again and let my inner child free. I set him free on the field. I played the next domestic tournament. I scored in 5 matches. I scored 200s and 350s. We won all the games, went to the next stage of the tournament. I rediscovered my passion for the game. I started losing weight. And I was like, okay, that's it. I want to play the game again. I don't want to quit. I want to stay here. I want to play for India again. Somewhere along the line, it rekindled my desire to play for India again and live a life that is purposeful. The first reasons that I went back to the counselors, because after I spoke to Sheets, I started writing about my life. Like, what is my life? I literally started with, my name is Robin Uthappa. I'm born on the 11th of November. I started writing all of that down. After half a page, I had nothing to write. I had nothing to take home. Then I realized, man, I just gone through life where so unconsciously, where if I've even manifested anything in life, it's when I was a kid, but not as an adult. And I realized that I was living a life that had no idea of my morality, that had no principles and no values. So it's like, and that's when I realized, okay, that's why I can't look myself in the eye in the mirror. Because whatever I had that naturally came to me was gone through everything I was going through. So even if I had to do that right now, I had to do it from an authentic place. Now I had to build myself back up again. So from 2012 to 14 was when I went to an internal journey of self-discovery, understanding and learning what my moralities are, and then setting values and principles by which I would live my life. It took me 2 years to earn my own self-respect back. And that journey was by far the hardest journey of my life. Because at that point, I also decided that I want to
play for India
again. And I want to get into that test team. Because I was tagged as a white ball player, limited overs player. But my passion was always to play for India in red ball cricket. I said, I'm going to pursue that. And then I said, okay, there is a gap in my batting technique and I'm going to close that gap. So I hired Praveen Ambe as my batting coach. It's the first
cricketer to get a personal coach. Yeah. And you kept that personal coach.
Yeah. And Sir and I did it at a time where we were mocked for it. We were ridiculed for it. Even in the newspapers. I only had 2 people kind of calling me up and congratulating me and saying, you're doing something that's slightly ahead of the curve. It will catch on. I can tell you today, every single player in the Indian team has their own personal batting coach or bowling coach. And they all pay them now. And we started this, way back in 2012. And I broke my batting down, Faye, from what I had known and what came naturally to me. I broke it down to its foundations and I started building myself up again. And we started from scratch again. Number of sessions that Praveen sir and I have stopped because I'm crying because I don't know what I'm doing. 25-year-old adult standing there at nets, weeping, and sir saying, it's okay, we'll come back tomorrow. You'll get it. Don't worry. Just go through it. And we've gone through it. For 2 years, I was working on myself, earning my own self-respect while breaking myself down to my foundations and building myself back up again as an athlete.
This was also the 2 years when you didn't speak to family?
Yeah. It's like I said, I went completely internal. I cut off from mom, dad, and my sister. And I left home and I started living by myself. And I really just wanted to become my own man. And I needed to do that for myself. I needed to do that for myself. And I needed to do that by myself without anybody's help. And I've made mistakes, but I've learned.
It's such a powerful story because I remember being told and experiencing that when you're going through depression, one of the telltale signs is that you're no longer interested in the thing you love the most.
Yeah.
And you love cricket more than anything else and you were ready to give it up because it was just not bringing you joy anymore. And that is a sign that something is wrong.
Yeah.
When I experienced depression after my child was born, I was just, the news didn't excite me.
Yeah.
I
can imagine.
The work didn't excite me. I didn't want to work. It brought me no joy.
Yeah.
And everybody turns around and says, oh, but you have everything you have ever wanted. How could you possibly not be happy, right? And it's so difficult.
How do you explain it?
Yeah, how do you explain
How do you
it?
articulate it? You can't.
You can't.
You can't. And you shouldn't even try to. Just tell them I'm going through a challenging phase, but I'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
And you said, and you've done this beautiful thing where you've told your story in multiple languages on your YouTube page. And one of the things that really struck me And I felt like I identified with it a lot. You said I was heavy in my head, in my heart, on my body. Everything was heavy.
It was mad. It was, where you feel like you're lying down in bed and someone just placed lead on top of you and you just cannot move.
Can't
You
breathe.
don't want to move. You can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
But you want to move, but you don't want to move. You can't breathe. You're trying to turn, and it's just everything aches.
Yeah.
And not it's not. I wish I can articulate it better. It's not ache as in pain. It's like ache as in everything is heavy. It's so cumbersome to move one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
It's that kind of feeling where it's debilitated, and you feel like there's no respite. But if you stay with that, and you say. And if you stay with it long enough, you will want to go down that road of saying, let me end it all. But if you stay with that and say, how can I figure this out? And if you can get to a place where you say to yourself, something is wrong, I need to figure this out. If you can get to that stage, that is the start. That is the start of your healing process. That's when you begin healing. Acknowledgement of the fact that there is something wrong. I need to figure this out.
Yeah. And it's powerful also for me because I don't know how many men have room to talk about this.
Very few.
How many men have space to say, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't feel like going to work. I have no joy in my life. Because as women, we have such a powerful network among each other.
Yep.
We have female friends that we talk to about everything to great detail. We have siblings, sisters, we share a lot, right? And what that does is also create a net that catches you very quickly. So, when I was depressed, I had a group of my friends who had also had children who were very quick to tell me, this is not normal. You're not supposed to feel like this. It's not supposed to be this hard. You need to see someone about this. Sure. And I feel like that's that net that catches you. Do men have that net?
No, we don't. And I often asked, I've thought about this a lot. I've asked why.
Yeah.
You realize that as tough as it is for women out there in the world, in a man's world today, I can assure you, it is as tough, if not tougher, for a man in a man's world. Because nobody has empathy for us. Nobody gives us any cushion room. Nobody does us any favors. It's a crab mentality. Everyone's trying to get ahead of the next person. And a lot of feminists or a lot of people who are feminists of the original kind would disagree with me perhaps. But I genuinely believe that, and today as a husband and as a father, I can tell you there's no respite for me.
Explain that to me.
I have to, no one's going to do me favors. I may get favors in a government office because of who I am, right? But I won't get any favors in the real world with the work I'm trying to do. No one's going to pull out any chairs for me or do favors for me or open doors for me. I have to hustle and do that myself, right? It doesn't matter if I'm a former cricketer or if I'm a World Cup champion or anything, because if I'm making my way in another walk in life, I probably have it easy in cricket. But if I'm doing, say, for example, with the work I'm doing with life sciences and life coaching and the performance mentorship and all of that, no one's opening doors for me. I'm hustling. And I have to hustle. It does not matter that I'm a World Cup winning player. I have to do it myself. I have to do that time. There's no shortcut.
You believe that's harder for men?
It is. I genuinely feel
Why
it's harder
so?
because I feel it's harder for men because, like I said, nobody wants you to get ahead. You have to forge your way ahead yourself. And even if by nature you're not alpha, on some level you have to operate with that mentality to even get even, to get even Stevens with the next guy. Forget being at the top of your game. It's the super alpha. Like I'm telling you, as an Indian cricketer, if you have to get to that level, you have to have that alpha mentality. You can't get there if you don't. You just have to. You can't get there if you don't.
So you're saying that there's no kindness, there's no empathy, there's
zero, -10 perhaps. There's no kindness whatsoever. There's no empathy whatsoever. None. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And we genuinely, I have asked myself why. I've asked myself why multiple times. Why is it like that here? Why? okay, because we as men don't speak and don't share. Why don't we share?
Mm.
And I narrowed it down to why as Indian men don't we share? Then you go back and think about it logically. I landed on this. We're a relatively young country,
Mm.
right? We were under the British rule for about 250 years till 1947. We're probably 76, 77 years old today as a country,
Yes.
which is far younger than, say, America, that we compare ourselves to. The British Empire in the UK, maybe over 1,000 years old.
Mm.
We're only 77 years old. And that means our fathers and grandfathers and grandparents all lived on survival mentality.
Mm.
When you live on survival mentality, you can't think of thriving. We were trying to populate the country while trying to survive and feed everyone that was in the family. No one's thinking about, oh, I want to make this amount of money. I want to leave this legacy. I want to earn this much money. I want to buy these kind of houses. I want to have 5 houses here and there and there. How many of those kind of people are there in our country?
Mm.
Maybe less than 100 at that point in time. Very few people thrived. Most of us survived. So the mentality that was passed through was there's no room for anything. Survive and get on.
Yeah.
So as men, you're hustling, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a factory worker, whether you're a corporate, whether you're a banker, you're going to work, you're hustling, coming back and just surviving. You're making do. We survived till the 1990s and then financially we started doing slightly well. It is only my generation, our generation and probably the ones after us, where we shift into the thinking of let's thrive.
Mm.
Everyone else before us, our parents were surviving. So for men at that point to talk about their mental health or how hard it is, the concept itself did not exist.
Because, for me, when I was watching your videos on your YouTube page, it was very easy. It could have been easy for you to have made that journey and say, okay, now I'm okay. I've got a handle on my life. I know what I'm doing. You don't necessarily have to bare your soul to the world. It's a really brave, tough thing to do over and over in 3 different languages,
Yeah.
which I appreciate. Was there I can tell every time you tell the story, your voice shakes a little bit because you're reliving it.
Yeah, and today it's from a place of gratitude because today I don't think I would be able to do the work I'm doing today if I hadn't gone through that. Today, the amount of empathy I have for people who go through this also exists because I've been through that journey. Today, my wife's going through prenatal postpartum depression. I'm able to navigate that with her because nobody talks about the impact it has on a relationship.
Yeah.
How many men actually talk about the fact that I'm supporting my wife who's going through prenatal postpartum depression. Man, it's hard for me.
Yeah.
I need an avenue to talk about this.
Yeah.
We can't. We don't have that avenue. And today I'm doing this more for men and I'm doing it genuinely more from showing people what true masculinity is because I don't think it's being stoic all the time.
Mm. Because we do also create these setup where basically you're being strong for everyone. So you don't want to show the family that you're worried about something. You don't want to show your team at work or the people that you work with that you're worried about something. And with friends, it's normally competitive about,
Sure.
Arey, pata hai, mera investment is now at this point. And, I did this at work and now it's so amazing. So there is actually no space where you can just say, you know what, I'm really scared about this. This is really hard for me.
I experience a lot of that when I'm playing matches, when I'm playing tournaments with my mates, and I experienced that through my cricketing career. And I've been someone who's actively chosen to be vulnerable to my friends.
Mm.
So I really like the friends I have today. I'm super grateful to God for. Are friends that I share deep, meaningful relationships with. And that exists because I choose to be vulnerable with them. And when I choose to be vulnerable with them, I create a space for them to be vulnerable with me. And when I do that, it makes more deeper and meaningful friendships.
Do you feel that the system of society would be less accepting of you if you said, I'm not going to take on work because I want to be home to spend birthdays with families?
Of course. Like go with, what Virat Kohli is facing for, him choosing his family.
Yeah. Or Rohit Sharma.
At this point in time, right?
For choosing to be with his wife when she's having
she's giving birth to his baby.
Yeah.
Like it's his baby as well. And on some level, there must be some respect for that, right? And we don't have as men. And it's the men who are trashing us. Like, it's the men who are trashing the men. It's not the women who are trashing the men.
Yeah. Because, I've always felt that as women, we're pushing at the workspace a lot to have equal workspaces. We cannot have equal workspaces unless we have equal homes.
Yeah.
And we cannot have equal homes unless we show more love, respect, and appreciation for good fathers and husbands. Yeah.
100%.
So when husbands are helping out and when they're making themselves available and when they're being good dads, we need to notice as society. We need to applaud. We need to appreciate. Yeah. Because that is the only way that we can even all of that playing field. Otherwise, it's just not possible. Yeah.
You can do it in private, just with your husbands. You can do that and they will love you for it. I can assure you. They will be over the moon and they'll do 10x more. At the end of the day, I'm telling you, men are just boys who have grown big. In our hearts, we are just boys. We want the love, we want the affection, we want the attention. We just don't ask for it. We love it.
You moved your family to Dubai. Why?
For the kids.
Okay.
And just Bangalore's traffic being untenable, man. I love my city, but I've seen the soul of my city die.
It's not dead.
Come on. And we grew up there.
Yes.
You remember?
I remember Tom's Cafe. I went to school across the street from Tom's Cafe.
Do you like, it takes me, I live 50, maybe 60 meters from Tom's Cafe. It takes me 10 minutes to go get from my door to the Tom's Cafe signet. 10 minutes. Like, my kids are 7 and 2. They were 5 and 6 months when we left. My son couldn't do more than one activity in a day.
Because he was spending all his time in traffic.
Yeah. Like, he'd go to school, he'd come back. But I want to understand the gymnastics because it's a life skill. You want to teach your kids that. And he would go, say, at 4 o'clock in the evening if he went, there was no guarantee that he would come back home by 7 o'clock or 7:30 even. 7 o'clock was his sleep time. So we'd feed him by 6 o'clock and then he had to go to sleep by 7:15 max. There were days he'd come back at 7:15. And the kicker in the bucket is we were taking our daughter, who was 3 months old, to the chiropractor. And it took us 45 minutes to get 3.5-4 kilometers away. And then on the way back, it took us an hour and a half. And then that's when I turned the sheets and I said, we can't do this. I don't want this to be our kids' life experience growing up. I want them to have a life where they think about their childhood and they feel like it was the best. I think about that. And as tenacious as my mom and dad's marriage was, my childhood was the best because I played so much. I did so much. There was so much of activity in my life. I was outdoors. I was an 80s kid who barely played a video game. So I want my kids to have that kind of a life experience. And I was like, where can we go? What can we do? And that's when Dubai became an option because it was still close enough to where, where we are at home. We can fly down. It's like a Delhi-Bangalore flight, 3.5-4 hours. We're home. And anywhere from the airport to anywhere to go in Bangalore takes another 2.5 hours. So when you look at all of that, you feel like, okay, you know what? I think it's better we move the kids somewhere, at least for their primary school lives. And then we'll figure out based on what they want to do. And we want to give them the ability to choose what they want to do because we've understood that whatever kids do between the ages of 11 and 20, they become super specialists at it. It's a researched fact.
I want to talk to you a little bit about money. Because, again, the difference of playing a sport professionally is that playing careers are shorter.
Yeah.
Which means even though the delta in terms of finance, the kind of money you'd make if you're at the top of your game is massive for a very young person, it's also over a shorter period of time. And so how important is it to know what to do with that money? So you have to make it last, but also just, being hit with that kind of cash so early.
So first of all, thank you so much for asking me that question because it's something that's bothered me for the longest time.
Okay.
I came into like a lot of money when I was 21, 22 in life. Like money that I never even dreamed of when the IPL first happened. Right? I can talk about it because the world knows how much I've earned. So my first IPL gig was for 3.2 crores. We were talking about crores in 2007. Like, who are you meeting? Nobody's talking about crores except the Ambanis and the Birlas of the world, right? So, and you're earning that for your family. You're earning what your father, your grandfather, and your uncles have all put together have not earned, right? So, you're like, it's like overwhelming. And to be honest, when a middle class family who survived well in India and Bangalore is given that kind of money, I can assure you, you have a million ideas. Okay. And those million ideas cause a million confusions.
Yeah.
And those million confusions cause a million miscommunications. And that leads to very difficult situations. And today, I'm so glad we reached a stage where people are so used to athletes earning that amount of money in our country.
Yes.
That they're not intimidated by it. They're not intimidated by the big number, which is a great thing. But when they do land that big figure, they still need to be educated in how they navigate through it. I have made a lot of bad investments. I've lost a lot of money, but I've also made a lot of money by making the right investments. It's about educating yourself. And you have to understand that in India, if you want to pursue a career in sport, you have to give up everything. You have to give up family. You have to give up friendships. You have to give up education. And you have to it's a single-minded pursuit of that one thing. You're spending your entire childhood to make it big in that one thing. So unless you have a really solid support system who can help you navigate through your finances in a constructive manner, you will make a lot of mistakes.
But do you believe in God? Are you spiritual?
Very.
Tell me what you believe in.
So my mom's a Catholic, Roman Catholic.
Oh.
My dad's a Hindu. He's a typical Hurgi Hindu.
Yeah.
So grew up in a home where I was trying to please mom and dad. So I believed in both.
Yeah.
And I always felt that there was a connection with God. I had my first God experience when I was about 8 years old. I had a run-in with a very close friend of mine who was my neighbor. And I ran into him and I cut my tongue.
Okay.
I never told the story in public before.
Okay.
So it's my first time. Okay. So I cut my tongue and nobody knew about it. It was a day in early 1990s. There's no electricity on a Sunday. Much like there were power cuts. There was like a 3-hour power cut that day. And so I ran into him and then we were both, like, I was bleeding. He wasn't bleeding, but he got hurt in his head. And then we came back and there was no electricity. So we all had torches. And then, so his mom asked me to show him my lips, show him my lips. And I showed her. And she's like, it's not cut. Open your mouth. I opened my mouth and my tongue was hanging on this side by the last skin.
Okay.
And we're like, mom panicked. Dad wasn't at home. So no mobiles back in the 1990s, early 1990s. So get hold of him somehow. Went to this place in Makery Circle called Ganesh Nursing Home.
Okay.
And doctor wasn't there. So it was a Sunday. So the assistant was there. Only a couple of compounders and a nurse was there. So like, oh, we have to stitch it up. So they tried to inject me to stitch it up, and I kicked everybody away. I was 8 years old. I don't know where I got the strength from. My mom was holding my leg. My dad was holding the other leg. Compounders holding my shoulders, and one of them holding my hand and trying to inject me. And I just kicked everyone. Like 2 or 3 times that happened. So then the doctor said, you know what? Take him home today. Come tomorrow because the main doctor will be there. There will be a few more compounders and nurses to help.
Good God.
So they took me back home. And so I had a bed. So my bed, my sister and I shared a room in our apartments. So my sister's bed was like that. My bed was like this. And this is the entrance of the room. And the altar of the house, which had all the gods, right? Our mandir had, all the Hindu gods, and he had the Holy Family, and he had Infant Jesus, and he had the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and he had those pictures. Then we had a nice light. And so I would sleep right under that. So mom said to me, you know what? Why don't you pray to Mother Mary and Jesus? They listen to children's prayers. I said, okay. So I knew the Our Father because I would go to school and I would just say it because we would say it in the assembly. So I said the Our Father. And for the first time in my life, I made a prayer for myself. So I said, God, if you can please just make this better because it's hurting a lot or whatever. I went to sleep. Next day morning at 7, mom wakes me up. She's like, come here, open your mouth, show me, show me. So I open my mouth and she's screaming. I'm like, did I swallow my own tongue and what has happened? And she was ecstatic and she's screaming. My tongue had joined back, like nothing had even happened the last night. It was just a little scar and it just joined back. Went to the doctor and like, he seems fine.
Yeah.
And no, he doesn't need any stitches. Everything's fine. Like maybe because of the tongue, because there's a lot of saliva, maybe it healed very quickly. But in less than 12 hours, I don't know how. But it anyway healed. And he said, just to be on the safer side, let him have ice creams for the next 3 days. Jesus.
Yeah, that's a prayer answered. It.
So that was my first experience. So I always had a connection with Yeshua. And then I became deeply religious with my dad. My dad was a very religious man. So I went with him to Shabrimala a couple of times. Once as a kid, once as a 14-year-old, I went with him. We used to go to Tirupati in Velangani, and everywhere. Dad became super religious. And Dad had a guru that I would also follow. And then we had, like, the guru would ask me to chant a bunch of mantras, which I would. Whilst I would also read the Bible, not comprehending it whatsoever because I didn't know how to interpret the Bible. I would just read it because I'm trying to please God there. And I'd read this and do my mantras because I'm going to please God. Yes. I went to play the Under-19 World Cup in 2003. This is my second God experience. I've never really publicly spoken about this, so I don't know why I'm doing this now. So, in the Under-19 World Cup, I would pray, I would read the Bible, I would have to chant mantras, and some mantras 8 times, some 12, some 16, some 58 times, so 51 times, some 108 times, different mantras. And because of things at home and how I had to earn everything that was given to us, in the sense I had to earn the love and the affection from home, when it came to God, it became that much more a task to please God, to get performances, or to became superstitious. It wasn't even religious. I became superstitious. So if I lost my count of the mantras,
You start again.
I'd start again. So I went through the entire World Cup where I didn't have one night of restful sleep. And then at the end of the World Cup, we lost in the semi-finals to Pakistan. And then I came back to the room and I sat up the foot of my bed. My roommate had fallen asleep. I sat at the foot of my bed and I said, God, I can't do this. I said, I cannot pray to so many gods at the same time. Whoever you are, show yourself to me. I'm going to close my eyes for 5 minutes. Whoever you are, show yourself to me. I will follow you for the rest of my life. You have my word. And I closed my eyes. I have a picture I will show you perhaps after the podcast of Yeshua. And he's looking at me and he's smiling. And I'm like, there, my eyes closed, I'm smiling back at him. And 5 minutes later, my roommate's like, bro, get up. Like, get up. It's time for dinner. And we had like a specific time for dinner at the hotel you're staying at. So like, what are you talking about? It's just 5:30. He's like, dude, you're sitting there for 2.5 hours. It's 8 o'clock. 8 to 9 is dinner. Let's go. So I was sitting there. What I thought was for 5 minutes was 2.5 hours just staring at his face and smiling and just being grateful. And since then, I've been on a journey where I've been taken to different churches, different faiths within the Christian faith. I've been taken beyond Christianity. I've been able to seek Yeshua outside of the Bible, been able to find him. I've been able to find where he was during the missing years. And I've genuinely pursued this knowledge. And I've studied the agnostic Bibles. I've studied a lot of it, the history of the Roman Catholic Church and the truth. And today I can say that I share a relationship with Yeshua. But Yeshua's taken me, and I don't call him Jesus for a reason. His name was Yeshua. For me, he'll always be Yeshua. So he's taken me to different faiths and he's shown me, and I've gone back to my Hindu faith. And today I'm able to leverage my father's side and learn about Hinduism and the way of Hinduism. It's not a religion, it's a way of life, it's a philosophy. Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma. What does Sanatan Dharma actually mean? I'm actually reading a book where I just read it. It means righteousness forever. So it's a way of life. It's not a religion. And I can go, he takes me across to every little faith. And today I live in a place where I have immense respect for every religion, every faith. And I just believe that different masters came at different times to teach people the same things in different ways for different diasporas in a way that they will understand it. At the base of it, the message is the same: kindness, love for others, acceptance. That's it. And for me, I navigate through life in a way where we have a mandir at home where we have all the gods. Everyone's there. They all coexist. And I believe that religion and faith shouldn't be imposed on children. I think it should, as in today, I have the conviction that I have in my relationship with God simply because I asked for an experience and I had it. And I believe that's a better way to be convicted than to be a Sunday Christian or a weekly Hindu.
Right.
Ask for an experience and you will have it. If you're open to it, you will experience it. And it's the most beautiful experiences. And I think today I was able to survive a lot of the things that I've survived, and I'm here where I am today because of the role that, God's played in my life. And I used to be at one point a Bible bashing Christian and was thrusted in people's faces, so much so to their, to a lot of my close friends at that point, I loved them to bits. A lot of my friends who had their own religions, I would stick it in their face. It's not the way. People should experience God and the gods that they experience for their reasons and for their walk or for this incarnation of their lives, of their journeys through, back to God. And I today consider myself a deeply spiritual person who has immense respect for all the religions, and I try to learn from every religion that there is.
How is that translating into your parenting? Because a lot of, it's a lot of our journey is personal until the kids come along.
Oh,
and then you're like, okay, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to pass this on? And you've got stuff that we've picked up from our parents, and your partner has stuff they picked up from their parents, and you're trying to find like a middle ground.
Yeah.
And where does religion then settle on that conversation?
Again, these conversations need to be had between the couples first before even having kids, because these are difficult conversations, and these are conversations that can lead to a breakup if not done respectfully.
Yeah.
To agree to disagree also is beautiful, right? And for me, with my partner, with Sheets, I was able to agree and to disagree with a lot of things. And like, okay. And she was like, I was like, no, I want them to be baptized. She's like, why do you want them to be baptized? Were you baptized when you were born? So like, no, I wasn't. Which is why I want them to be baptized. I want them to have protection that they need to. And she's like, do you think that they will have protection? I'm like, yeah, I think they will have protection. But do you think that they will even know that they're baptized? I'm like, no. So like, do you think it would be better if they knew what it meant and they did it out of their own will?
Yeah.
Because they wanted to do it and they want that relationship with God like you have. So like, oh yeah, for sure. So then I'm like, okay, I see where you're going. I said, it makes sense. So like today I take it upon myself to make sure I say prayers of protection for my family on a day-to-day basis, and hope that and know that they will discover God. Because if I share a relationship with God, and today if my kids call me Dada, you look at Yeshua and call him Big Dada. And today they know that they can always speak to Yeshua. And she's also she's also believes that she's someone who has her own beliefs. And she's got her own understanding of her own beliefs. So for her, it's not God. For her, it's energy. And she believes in that energy, and she believes that, and she feels that energy always with her. So she feels like she's always protected, always taken care of, and the kids are always taken care of. Every time I feel like something's up with the kids, and as parents, you get really antsy about these things, I say a prayer of protection sometimes for the kids, and they're absolutely fine the next day. And that works magic for me. So I lean back on the things that I can use. And today I use every tool that the gods have to give me, that they put on earth. And I think that there is a reason I'm born to a Hindu father and a Christian mother. Because God wants me to leverage both. And I leverage both to its maximum. I use every tool that Hinduism has to give me. I use every tool that Christianity has to give me. And I imbibe them. And there's so many religions that meet in between.
That's amazing. Robin, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yes, it has been a pleasure. I wish you such good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.